Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Thibaut Kellum. I'm the head of customer success at Linkurious, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar, Invisible Connections, Visible Impact, Fighting Public Sector Fraud with Graph Technology. Thank you all very much for joining us. Today we're zooming in on a critical issue that affects governments in public institutions around the world, fraud in the public sector. So from share companies to synthetic identities and fraudulent claims, public sector fraud often hides between a web of disconnected data. Today, we'll explore how graph technology helps investigators untangle that web and spot the invisible connections that make all the difference. Before we take a deep dive into the heart of this discussion, I just wanted to do a couple of quick housekeeping items. First of all, yes, this session is being recorded, so you'll receive the full replay and the slides via an email shortly after the event. At any time, feel free to type your questions in the control panel that you have on the right. We'll save about 10 minutes of a live Q&A at the end of the presentation and of the demo. You'll also find some useful handouts in the same control panel. So without further ado, let me introduce the speakers of today. So today we'll have the pleasure of having Jean Villedieu, co-founder of Linkurious.
Hello, everyone.
We'll have Jacob Isaacson, Director of Advanced Solution from DataExpert.
Hi, everyone.
And Emily Williams, Customer Success Manager at Linkurious.
Hey, everyone.
Have a quick look at the agenda. We'll go through a quick introduction, and then we'll go through a little bit in the details of the challenges of fraud in the public sector. We'll have a look into what is the specific approach of Linkurious to public sector fraud and how our technology enables the detection and analysis of public sector fraud. We'll go through a concrete case study of how a government agency leveraged graph analytics to fight financial crime. And then we'll have a demo of Linkurious Enterprise with a scenario and an investigation centered around a use case of public sector fraud. So without further ado, the floor is yours, Jean. Let's go right ahead.
Thanks, Thibaut. So first, a quick word about Linkurious. The company itself was created in 2013. We have two offices, one in France and one in the US, and we are a team of 50+ employees supporting more than 10,000 investigators who, on a daily basis, are conducting complex investigations around cybersecurity, financial crime, law enforcement, and more using our solutions. And today I'm joined by Jakob.
Thanks, Jean. DataExpert has been helping organizations for 35 years in getting a hold of and implementing and getting educated in technologies around investigations, intelligence, and analytics. We have about 250 employees, and our home markets are in the Benelux, Poland, and the Nordics. Myself, I'm head of the business unit that takes care of the more advanced platform solutions that we deliver with our great partners to hopefully a great benefit of societies where we operate. Thanks. Oh, sorry. And we service both enterprise and government customers, and really help them to uncover the truth and reduce harassment, crime, misconduct, and so on.
So to kick things off, I'd like to talk a little bit about the changes of fraud in the public sector and some current trends. First, I think it's important to note that government agencies are under a lot of pressure right now. In Europe in particular, there's a combination of low growth and aging populations, which is putting a lot of pressure on the welfare state. At the same time, there's a geopolitical context that pushes for investment in military spending and innovation as a way to foster geostrategic independence. On top of that, there are various populist movements across Europe, which are adding a lot of scrutiny around waste, abuse related to corruption, social benefits, tax evasion. And all of that comes in a context where the expectations and challenges are high for government agencies when it comes to curbing fraud. So that's the current climate right now. And it's important to note that fraud is really a massive problem, and thus also an opportunity for improvement for government and public sector. You can see here some figures that illustrate that point. First, in 2015, 824 billion euros, that's billion with a B, were lost by European countries due to tax evasion. So it's a big number. To further illustrate that, the French government estimated that in 2022, it identified more than 14 billion in tax fraud, which is also a very impressive number. And finally, we have all heard about abuse of social benefits. One figure that illustrates that is that it's estimated that in 2011, 5% of the welfare payments in Denmark were actually considered as fraudulent. Once again, a staggering number. And in order to put a stop to this, at Linkurious, our belief is that it's very important to understand the connections in data. And you can see in this picture some illustrations of that. As an example, the football player Cristiano Ronaldo reached a 20 million settlement with European tax agency related to the use of shell companies headquartered in the British Virgin Islands that were used to hide part of his income in a tax evasion case. Another example is Roman Abramovich, a Russian oligarch who is in the middle of a 1 billion euro dispute with the British tax agency related to tax evasion and once again the use of shell companies that were designed to obfuscate the origin of his income. In all of these cases, if you are only centered on the relevant individual at the center of the tax evasion scheme and don't really understand the web of companies and entities that gravitate around him, then you are simply not able to identify the tax evasion and put a stop to it. So that's why it's so important to uncover hidden connections in data to stop financial crime. And this challenge, it's actually very difficult. Creating such an understanding of the context around people, around companies, is difficult for government agencies. And there are 5 big reasons for that. And I guess the number one is really silos. Silos that are deeply inserted in the culture. First, there are legal silos, privacy laws that restrict the way various data sources can be fused, creating barriers to information sharing. But on top of that, within organizations and across organizations in the public sector, there are also turf wars related to what data can be shared, further impeding the sharing of information. So that's one first obstacle. Another obstacle is just that it's very challenging from a technical standpoint to fuse different data sources and use advanced analytical techniques such as graph analytics to make sense of the connections in data. If you're not a big spy agency or a global bank, tackling these challenges can be overwhelming. And then a lot of public sector organizations, in reality, are really using outdated technologies based on relational databases and siloed applications, further impeding the ability to build that holistic understanding of the data. And it's tough to do better with limited budgets and technical teams that are oftentimes spread thin. For all of these reasons, government agencies are in dire need of pragmatic solutions that can provide the ability to fuse various data sources, detect suspicious activities, and empower investigators who are tasked with stopping financial crime. And this challenge, it's really something that exists across multiple types of institutions within our government. For example, financial investigations units need to process suspicious activity reports that are related to money laundering and terrorism funding. Tax agencies are leading the fight against tax evasion. And then the employment agencies, health agencies, the pension agencies, they are all allocating big sums of money that are related to social benefits. And these agencies, they are the target of increasingly sophisticated criminal networks that are committing large-scale fraud. Another example is that a lot of countries have fraud, waste, and abuse agencies that are tasked, for example, with fighting against political corruptions. So these are just some examples of the type of public sector organizations that need new solutions to fight financial crime right now. For all of these reasons and more, we have built a platform at Linkurious that can empower public sector organizations looking to turn the table against criminal networks. And it all starts with a product or software, the Linkurious Decision Intelligence Platform, which leverages graph analytics to help public sector organizations build a unified view of the people, the companies, and other entities in their data in order to detect financial crime and accelerate investigations. And you can see what it looks like here, and we'll see that in action later today in a demo by Emily. Here you can see a bit of an overview of how it works. It all starts with the data on the left. Organizations can bring in internal data, external data, multiple data sources, and then combine entity resolution, which provide the ability to fuse data sources into a single unified knowledge graph. AI and graph analytics to enrich the graph, detect communities, and more. Alerts and case management to generate alerts, and search and visual investigations to empower investigators looking to make sense of the data. They can leverage these various capabilities to accelerate decisions and make more confident decisions. At the end of the day, this drives four types of benefits for public sector investigations. First, there's the ability to reduce abuse, and first and foremost, detect criminal schemes that would otherwise go unnoticed. That means being able to put maybe not a stop, but at least curb fraud, and thus save money. And it's something that we have experienced firsthand with some of our clients, that ability to really save money by deploying technology. Another big impact is just that ability to optimize the existing resources, making use of what's actually available in the fight against financial crime. And our product help spend less time chasing data and more time making decisions. It's also something that can complement existing tools with new capabilities. With a robust API, you can add new capabilities to existing tools and make more of your existing investments. And finally, it helps deliver better citizen experience, and it's compatible with the changes of large public sector organizations, changes in terms of scale, in terms of security, and in terms of privacy. And to further illustrate that, I'm going to pass the baton over to you, Jakob, for case study.
Thanks, Sean. Yeah, so I'm gonna be talking about a use case of a real-world project that we are running. Because of confidentiality, I'm not gonna say specifically what agency it is about, but it really doesn't matter, because any organization that does investigations or controls into fraud, tax evasion, money laundering, and stuff like that will face the same challenges that we are addressing in this project. And the project is built on Linkurious and a graph database platform and an integration platform that's provided by our partners. So our vision of this project is really to look at an agency that has high volume of cases and a big headcount of case analysts that needs to look into cases of potential fraud or tax evasion and quickly derive whether or not there's any proof of occurrence. And in this, we believe that we will be able to provide a 10 times time saving for these analysts, and being able to recover 10 times as much evaded taxes due to both the higher volume of cases that they can address, but also due to the higher quality of cases that they can address. And given that they potentially spend 70-80% of their work simply accessing and correlating data, then we'll be able to also process 10 times as many cases. So the data landscape of a case analyst in this organization is that while he does have access to a lot of registers that contain all the information that he needs, it's still a big hurdle that he needs to go into each and every different registry and take that data out, and it really provides for a very unmomentous work style, where you have to all the time access many different applications, copy paste data around, try to figure out whether or not the links are actually real, and you have to use your own notepad or Excel or something like that to register each of the entities and potential connections that you come across, and then potentially you have problems logging into one of the systems, and then you get stuck, and all of this creates a situation where you, as the analyst, is feel like that you are losing time, that some of the patterns that you might have been able to find with the right system is missed somehow, and you go home weary of not have been able to prove the cases that you've been investigating all day long. And we really want to address this challenge. The other challenge is that the cases that they are being supplied comes from a targeting effort done by the analyst team that is tasked with finding lists of identities or businesses that are potentially committing fraud or tax evasion, and then they provide that to the case analysts. However, if the analyst team does not have access to cases or systems where they can create rules that are based on connections and multiple input sources, then what they are able to produce are rather unqualified lists of identifiers and very short descriptions of what the case analyst is supposed to look for. So rather, we want to be able to provide the targeting analysts with tools where they can create rules either using AI or more procedural rules, but go across the source data to find hidden relationships, use risk indicators that are below the surface level, potentially accumulation of payments or connections, centrality, and anomalies as well. And then in the end, when they provide lists of cases for the case analyst to investigate, that it also is supplied with a meaningful description of why they are looking into this specific case. And the way that we are setting up this project, or the customer is doing it, is first by unifying all the data sources. We've supplied a integration platform that will enable them to get data from up to 20 different source systems and load them into a centralized platform. And once they have it in there, in that data platform based on graph technology, they're able to perform automated link detection and pattern recognition that will give the case analysts a better target list to do the case investigations on. And finally, being able to on top of the data platform, to provide with Linkurious a visual intelligence platform that intuitively both allows the targeting analysts and the case analysts to work with this data and uncover proof of what they are investigating. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. My name's Emily, and I'll be doing a demo to show how Linkurious Enterprise works. So I believe on the next slide, we can give a quick overview of what we'll see in this demo. So the scenario for this demo is, we can imagine that I am a fraud analyst that is working at a government unemployment agency. So as a fraud analyst, I really know my fraud patterns. I know my fraud hallmarks. I manually review people that are flagged. I use Linkurious Enterprise as a decision intelligence platform to decide if these people are fraudulent or not. I also look for different fraud patterns, but I'm not a very technical person. I'm more of a subject matter expert. So I don't know necessarily how to write SQL or Cypher, but we're going to see how, as a fraud analyst end user, I can use Linkurious Enterprise to make decisions on people and to find these fraud patterns. So in the demo, we're going to be working with a dummy data set. This is a data set that you can imagine a government unemployment agency would have reasonable access to this data points. So it includes the names of people, their email address, their phone number, the contracts they had with their employer, and the bank accounts that they're getting these unemployment deposits deposited into. So what we're going to see specifically in Linkurious Enterprise is how to identify suspicious links and suspicious networks, whether that's being connected via PII or other maybe unanticipated data points. It's also very easy to understand different geolocation discrepancies that are often a defining pattern of fraud. We can also do a story-based telling fraud analysis and really tell the story of how different fraud networks evolved and what tools they're using. We'll also be able to easily hop into different open source tools and easily pass data in between. So that saves me time on doing secondary research. And finally, we're going to wrap up the entire fraud investigation and show how you can easily take your investigative notes, take your graph pattern, and easily share it with people. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started with the demo. So here, correct me if I'm wrong, but you should be able to see the dashboard of Linkurious Enterprise. So you can see I have a couple of folders where I can organize my investigations, or we call them visualizations. I also have some one-off investigations, and I also have different spaces that are shared with my colleagues where we can easily hop into each other's investigations. So what has happened to get to this point here is I'm connected to this underlying graph database that houses my unemployment data. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new visualization to start my investigation. Here we are in the workspace, and you can see there's several different modes to get started with your investigation based off of your investigative workflow. So if I know a person, if a person has been flagged, or maybe a company has been flagged, I can go ahead and really easily just type into my search bar and pull them up and start my investigation that way. Or if I know there's a specific fraud pattern that's heavily abused, I can go ahead and search for that pattern using my no-code query builder. So this is a way for me to code a query without actually coding it. It's a way for me to easily ask for my graph database to search for this fraud pattern and bring up the results. So I can do that by clicking here, and it's going to show me my data schema. So it's going to show me all of the different data points and different categories I can start exploring. So again, in this dummy data set, we have addresses, banks, claimants. Those are the people that are claiming unemployment. They each have a contract, an unemployment contract. We have their emails, the employer that's issuing the contract, and telephone numbers. So a pretty common fraud hallmark, really across all different types of fraud, are people that are sharing and recycling their PII. So let's go ahead and see if that shows in any of my data. So we'll start by seeing if there is a claimant who has the same email as another claimant. So this is an easy way to go ahead and create this query, which is going to ask to show people that are sharing the same email as another people. So let's go ahead. You can see the Cypher query has been created. So instead of me having to actually know Cypher, which is the underlying graph database language, and type this up, it's already completely created it for me. And it has shown me that I have these 10 results. So I will go ahead and add this to the workspace. It's prompting me if I want to save this query and reuse it, but let's go ahead and just add it without saving. So from here, I do see that in my database of people claiming unemployment, we have all of these people that are connected to the same email. So automatically a red flag. Usually there shouldn't be like 10 people that are sharing the same email. In this graph view, it's easy to see they're all sharing the same email. But if I wanted to switch into like a tabular view, because I wanted to see more information about them and compare, I can easily select all. And here it's going to tell me all their different names, their addresses, their ages. So their ages are really spread out. And I can see the different cities and states they're in. So indeed, this is super weird. No one should be having this many people on their email located everywhere. And just to really drive that point in, we have geo mode. So when I turn on geo mode, this, as you can see, maps where their location is. So again, fraud discrepancies are really important to pay attention to, whether it's this, whether it's an IP that's really far away from a person. This capability in Linkurious Enterprise is really a neat feature for identifying those geolocation discrepancies. So what do I do from here? I want you to imagine that this investigation, how it is different than looking at something in a table. So for instance, if you're trying to see fraud, maybe you can see this in a table format. You know, maybe you can see there are a bunch of people sharing the same email. But where you really get deep into the root and really see the huge, large fraud networks that are often behind these different fraud schemes, you can start to expand and see what other suspicious connections there are, and if it links up with another fraud ring, or what the true expanse of this fraud scheme is. So if there is a number on this data point, it means there's more connections. So for example, I have this person, Luke, who's sharing this email address along with everyone else. He has a contract and he also has a phone number. And if I click on this phone number, I can see this phone number is also being shared by other people. Already, there's more PII sharing. It's not looking great. And I can go ahead and just manually start clicking on all of these nodes and expanding to see what connections they have. So for example, this person, Sam, has had 3 contracts. If I click on Claire, I can see that they have a contract, et cetera, et cetera. There are a lot of different ways for me to kind of speed up this investigation. So at this point, I just want to expand all this network. I want to see all of the connections of all the connections and see where it ends, and then kind of start digging in from there and start filtering out my data to find other fraud patterns. So if I select all, I can choose to expand all of the neighbors. So I don't want to just focus on any one category of data right now. I really just want to go ahead and keep expanding pretty much until I can't expand anymore, and then take a step back and again, see what the limit is of the fraud ring and what all the hallmarks are. So let's just keep on expanding. And as you can see, I used a query in the beginning. I'm using these expand tools. Linkurious is really, you just plug it on top of your data set and you can already use all these features. So it's really easy to get up and started. So this is the extent of my graph right now. It looks like there's a lot going on, but there's different tools I can use in Linkurious Enterprise to kind of just focus on different sets of data and start to see any more suspicious or concerning hallmarks. So let's start over here. This is where we started. This was our email ring. And with the use of color and design in Linkurious Enterprise, I can see I have a new type of data. So these are the red nodes, and I kind of see them a bit everywhere. It looks like they have some connections. So let's go ahead and open up my filter panel. With my filter panel, it's also the selection panel. So if I click on bank account, I can see I have 7 of these red dots that are bank accounts in my graph. So let's go ahead and focus on the bank accounts. I have 27 people in my graph. I just want to focus on the bank accounts and people for now. I already looked at the phone numbers and emails. So by easily filtering off some of the noise, now I can just focus on what is what is going on here with the bank accounts. So it looks like there's an N26 bank account that's being shared by 3 different claimants, and 2 of them share another N26 bank account that's being shared with 3 different claimants. Oh no, sorry, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we start to see this circular pattern of people that are sharing bank accounts, and then at least one person that's going on to share another bank account. So we have this kind of circular chain of bank account sharing. Bank accounts are like emails. Maybe you have 2 people sharing a bank account if it's a joint account. But I see also in my filter panel, I only have 1 employer. So let's bring in the contracts and the employer. And so now I can easily see that all of these people that are sharing bank accounts have contracts to the same employer. So I just want to take a second to pause. If I bring back all this information again, we started out with this email chain. And again, maybe if you were using like a tabular view to look at this, you plausibly could have found this. But from this email chain using connections, we found someone that's sharing the same phone number to someone that has contracts with an employer. And then through this employer, they're all sharing bank accounts. So instead of just seeing this small email fraud ring with Graph and Linkurious Enterprise, we're able to see the root of it is actually much bigger. And at this point, as a fraud analyst, I'm a little suspicious that the employer itself has so many contracts with so many unemployed people that are sharing the same bank account. Let's go ahead and do a little bit more analysis before I wrap up with my investigative notes and escalate this to my team members to freeze the benefits. I think it's at this point already pretty sure that there's definitely something weird going on, but let's put the nail in the coffin. So one thing I'm missing is the timeline. I can show this to someone and they might ask, how recent is this? When did they all get the benefits? Is this a scheme that's been long running, et cetera, et cetera? So from here, I can turn on timeline and I can choose which time criteria I want to tell my story and I want to filter on. So let's start with when the claimants got their first distribution. So when they first filed for unemployment and got their first unemployment benefit. Let's remember that the claimants are in blue. So my timeline is going to populate. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. My timeline is going to populate automatically with the spectrum of time that the graph reflects. So if I go ahead and toggle to the very beginning, in the very beginning, so in August of 2019, if I click there, I can see I only had 1 person that was claiming unemployment in 2019. Okay, that's fine. Let's go ahead and go to this section. And I can see some blue starting to come in. So in January 2020, we have this email, this little email fraud network. And it looks like that was super intentional. In January and February, they're all filing their first unemployment benefits. And then I can see here we have a section in July, August, September, October. And then you start to see this fraud network. They start claiming their unemployment benefits, the ones that are sharing the bank accounts. So it almost seems like the people that were sharing the email, they started asking for the unemployment benefits in the earlier on in August 2019. And then maybe they teamed up or made more identities for people that were sharing bank accounts that were getting their unemployment benefits. I can also see easily if they're getting around the same amount. Like, are they claiming around the same amount? So for that, I'm going to hop back into the filter panel, and I'm going to go to the amounts that's being dispersed. And here, just like timeline, I can either add a section I want to filter to see if that amount exists, or I can just toggle like I did with timeline, and it's going to filter out the people that are getting a lower amount dispersed. And what do we see happening again? It's the same as timeline. So it looks like these people with the email who were asking for their disbursements first, they were asking for smaller disbursements between 260 euros and 290 euros. And it's not until we get to these bigger disbursements, like 530 euros, boom, we get everyone that's sharing a bank account. That's about the amount they're getting dispersed. I see I have a bank account that's Varo. I see I have Sophie, Varo, Revolut. I'm familiar with some of these, but let's say N26, I wasn't really sure, like, is this matching a pattern? It's all neobanks. If I wanted to Google this quick, I can easily use a custom action and do a Google lookup. And you can see it's passed my data right into Google. We have clients that use this to do like IP lookups, if they're ATO'd, see if their emails have been compromised, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the way you can easily pass information in Linkurious Enterprise into a third-party data lookup. And indeed, I can see N26 is a neobank. So that's also kind of fitting the pattern that I'm seeing. Okay, at this point, I think it's super clear we're dealing with some fraud actors. So I'm going to go ahead and save this visualization. And here I'm going to write all my investigative notes, sharing emails, sharing bank accounts, all neobanks, timeline. You know, here you can get really detailed, geo mode, mismatch, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm going to ping my colleague Ganesh and say, hey, can you have a look at this and close their accounts, please? I also know I need to escalate this to the authorities. So I'm going to select everything, open up my property panel, and I'm going to go ahead and export this as data. So I can export this with all their information and give that to the authorities and close up my investigation that way. So there's one other main feature of Linkurious Enterprise I want to show you for how you can get started with your investigations. So if we remember, I started this investigation with people sharing the same email. And let's say that's a fraud pattern I really need to stay on top of. As soon as someone's registered with an email that's the same as someone else, I need to get an alert right away. And I need to go ahead and review it so it doesn't turn into this like monster fraud ring where then people are sharing PII, et cetera, et cetera. So if I go ahead and go back to my dashboard, I can click on alerts. And here I have taken that query of show me people sharing the PII, but I have asked Linkurious Enterprise to run this query every 5 minutes so that whenever there is a match for this fraud pattern where people are signing up and they're sharing the same email, I'm going to get a notification. It's going to go ahead and generate this case. From here, I can go ahead and open the case. And what I can see is that it has already populated this fraud network. So from here, I can do the exact same investigation I did in my other workspace. Again, I can write my investigative notes. If I wanted to assign this to someone else, a supervisor, maybe a coworker, because I'm going on vacation, I can go ahead and do that. And then ultimately, I can either confirm this case or dismiss it. This is a really just like a snapshot of the capabilities of our detection and case management. There's so much you can do with this, from downloading an extract to getting metrics about how many cases your analysts are working, how long it's taking them, how many are being confirmed and dismissed. There's also a bunch of different ways you can triage and incorporate it into your workflow. So if you are interested, definitely reach out and we can do a much further demo on this capability. That concludes the demo, and I believe now we will go on to the Q&A portion.
All right. Thank you, Emily. Great demo. So yeah, just a quick reminder that there's still some time to send some questions here. On the control panel you have on your right. Meanwhile, I'll go ahead with the first question. So there are two, I would say, questions that are kind of like tackling the same topic, which is the first one, based on your experience on both DataExpert side and Linkurious. What are the success factors to achieve a graph project? What is typically the implementation time for such project within public institutions to reach a production level?
Should I answer that? Yeah. So the success criteria would be that you somehow have something that is a measurable impact, that you can say, okay, if we are able to improve this, then we can either save this much time or we can recover this many assets. It's important to have these success criteria in place so that there's actually the momentum in the project itself. The implementation time is often it can be a matter of a few weeks if you already have access to the data that you need, and you have hardware available or are able to implement in cloud infrastructure. Then it's possible to fairly easy get the data into the graph platform, and then setting up Linkurious is very easy.
Yeah, and just to add on that, plus one to all of that, hardware resources, and I would say making sure you have the right people resources as well. So from the beginning, you'll probably want to talk to the end users, the analysts that my role that I was doing in the demo, but also who's going to be your application admin. Do you have certain securities where some people can see data, but others can't? Do you have more advanced requirements? Do you have someone just for like the technical infrastructure setup? So really knowing the people that you'll need. And this is, of course, something that we can guide you through as well, and making sure they have access and bandwidth to help you start your project.
All right. The second question that was kind of somehow related to that was more of like, what is the typical kind of like adoption path of graph technology within public sector institutions? By our experience, we find it easy for analysts or investigators to adopt new detection investigative analytics like graph technology. What is kind of like, the typical adoption path in terms of usage and technology?
I would say, as a customer success manager at Linkurious Enterprise, that's part of our mission, and our role is to make sure there's successful implementation and successful user adoption. So for us, it's really about training and enablement, and we have a lot of different workshops that we do, everything from an end user training where you go through all of the main features and understand how Linkurious Enterprise works. This is offered both live, and we have an academy where it's more self-paced, and also just continuous check-ins while the POC or project is ongoing. We'll ask our clients to share their screen, show us how they're using it. We've seen tons of different use cases. Definitely fraud is one of the big ones. So we can also give guidance on different features they can be using, or different ways they can use it. We can also do internal webinars to like socialize the idea and really highlight how they're adopting new technology. So there's a tons of different ways, but I would say we really focus on the training and enablement and make sure we have different sessions and courses that reflect it.
Okay. Perhaps let's see one last question. What is or what could be a good measure of ROI for graph technology within the public sector of graph projects? Yeah.
Yeah, so in the case study that I presented, there are multiple ROIs that you can look into. So the two main dimensions is time savings, and the other one is recovered assets. So if you can use it to save time, then you can do more, and you can recover more assets. So another one could actually also be in the welfare of the people that you have working in your organization as well. Being able to work in one system and find the information that you need quickly is an exceptional relief compared to what most organizations do, which is to have registers in multiple applications and then leave it up to the analysts themselves to somehow figure out that complexity.
And just to add to that, we have seen some very substantial savings experienced by some of our clients, 8-figure savings specifically. So there's really room for improvement, I guess, in terms of the fight against fraud in the public sector. And the Linkurious Decision Intelligence Platform can be a cornerstone of tackling that.
Yeah, basically, if you have been running a fraud or tax evasion investigation operation, then you pretty much know what is how many cases can you run, what is the success rate, and what are you trying to achieve, and then how can you do more if you are able to reduce the amount of time that you spend per case by a factor of potentially 70-80%, then you can multiply the outcomes of that as well.
Okay. One very last question from wondering if Linkurious is looking into possibility to plug LLM into the tool, like for example, take the last visualization Emily showed and automatically generate the analysis she wrote to send the account manager or something else. So basically generating outputs of the analysis on the graph through LLM. Wants to have a quick answer to that, and if needed, we can follow up after the session since we're close to the end.
Sure. So maybe Jean can help me with this too. I think it just depends how I understand it. So to use LLM to generate the analysis, right now, there are a lot of different like export and publish features. They're not specifically using LLM for this part, but you can export as an Excel. You can also, we have an image export where you can actually add text box and you can annotate and you can like point to an arrow. So in the demo I did, you could like, you know, point to that email and say, you know, to us it stood out in graph, but you can like annotate and do that. You can also publish a widget, which is a dynamic snapshot of just your investigation. So those are the different ways, some of the different ways that you can export and publish and add some more context when you're doing your report. Jean, I don't know if you want to take or give any remarks about LLMs in general.
Sure. Maybe I can add that we are currently doing some experiments within the product team around the use of LLMs. We are excited about that, and hoping to be able to share some stuff in public in the future.
Okay. So I guess now is a good time to wrap up this session. Thank you, Jean, Jacob, Emily, for this great session, great demos. Thank you, everyone, for attending. So stay tuned, look into your email for the recorded sessions, the slides, the handouts. And well, on that note, wishing everyone a great evening if you're on the same time zone as us. And yeah, thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a great one.
Thanks, Joel.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.